It's a blessing to have Brother Paul O'Donnell with us, a Franciscan brother who is president of the Terry Schiavo Life and Hope Network. We're talking about every life as a gift, and I'm sure that your network is really connected with this theme.
We really are, because euthanasia follows abortion just as the night follows the day. And we're seeing more and more that people are turning to death as a solution. 90% of women who are diagnosed with a child that's going to have Down syndrome choose abortion. And so we're depriving a whole society of people of life based on somebody else's values, whether they're worth living or not.
There was a story in the news about a young man who had been in a so-called vegetative state for 12 years, who got better, is now married, and says he remembers it all. Whether or not a person who is in that condition gets better, the value of their life is just as much as any of ours, isn't it?
That's right. In the eyes of God, they're just as precious, and they should be cared for and nurtured by a loving society. And that's why the Terry Schiavo Life and Hope Network is here at the March for Life, because it's a march for all life, all of God's creation of human life, and not just the preborn child in the womb, but for the elderly, the aged, the handicapped. All life is precious in the eyes of God.
In case you don't remember, Terry Schiavo was the young woman who her family, her husband, had life support taken from her against her family's wishes, and that happens more than we want to think.
That's right. Every day in America, people are sold a bill of goods that starvation and dehydration is a compassionate thing to do, but it's really a barbaric thing to do. And we need to go back to basic values where someone's sick or elderly, that we care for them and we nurture them and assist them, not kill them.
Has the foundation, the network, been able to sort of turn this around a little bit? Have you made some progress?
We've made some progress. Just like every life that's saved from abortion is progress, we've had about 500 to 700 cases where we've helped families avoid a situation that the Schindlers had to go through with their daughter. So we've been able to help families in need, but we got a long way to go, long way.
Well, that's a lot of progress, and it is making a difference. Franciscan brother Paul O'Donnell, tell us how we can get in touch with the Terry Schiavo Life and Hope Network.
www.Life and Hope Network, and we'll be there for you.
Brother Paul, thank you.
Thank you.
And Doug, I want to remind all of our viewers, as we watch this unfold today, you can see a beautiful encapsulized version of the March for Life on EWTN News Nightly starting at 6 Eastern, right here on EWTN.
Very good. Thank you so much, Brian. It's great, and that's what we're trying to be able to offer here, Father, right? The idea of all the different ways you can partake, even in EWTN's coverage of the March for Life, whether it's watching on television, on your mobile apps. You have all that information, EWTN everywhere, of course, our social media group, and of course, here you can watch everything together. You can sit through the whole event, or you can get some highlights, as Brian was talking, inside the news show and get it encapsulated. It really depends on what you want to make it available to everybody in every which way.
We are not satisfied with anything less than the truth. So that's simply what we're trying to present here. The truth, I always say, is buoyant. We can try to submerge it under the water, but it keeps coming up. Right. So the truth about human life, the truth about who we are and our dignity, it's always going to be coming up to the surface.
Right, and the truth attracts. I mean, when you start dealing with the truth, people are attracted to it, even if they're not sure why initially.
Yeah. We're drawn to it because it's like Jesus said, the truth is going to make us free. We want to know how to live. We want to know what the meaning of our existence is. And so God has revealed that to us in Jesus Christ most fully, but he's also given us a reason to understand, as science tells us now, that life begins at conception.
Right, I can see now, and you can see on your screen, the crowd is starting to build there at the rally site. You can see how far in the background the Capitol building is, which looks a little different than it has in past years, like we talked about. They've moved it down further, so actually the actual march itself, as we showed you earlier, is actually longer in a straight line. It used to be you kind of came out and made a quick turn, but this is actually a little further down than normal, so that's exciting too, because it'll allow us to see the full impact of the march stretched out over a long straight avenue as they move up towards the Capitol and then on to the Supreme Court building. And Right now we go out to Teresa, who's in the midst of that crowd. Teresa.
Hi, Doug. Yes, I'm with the new Bishop of Toledo. The Toledo Diocese, not far from my home state, of course, of Michigan, and the Archdiocese of Detroit, but Bishop Daniel Thomas. And this is 3 months on the job for you today, isn't it? Congratulations. You're doing well so far, I guess. You're still there, right?
Thank you, Teresa. It's exactly 3 months to the day, and of course that day was the first feast of Pope John Paul as a saint. So we're invoking his wonderful intercession today as well.
How many people from the Diocese of Toledo do you have with you?
Peter, I think we have about 1,000 people from the Diocese of Toledo, so we're very proud and we're very excited. Peter and I can show you, we're going to be all touting these hats so that all together we're in the group, both recognizing the Diocese of Toledo and as one body proclaiming the sanctity and dignity of life.
Well, nobody's going to miss you with that bright orange.
I don't think so.
And Peter, you're with the Pro-Life Office, 1,000 people. That's incredible.
It's so awesome, you know, and I just started about 5-6 months ago, and it's been a tremendous joy. And Teresa, I just want to share with you real quick what makes me pro-life. My mother and father growing up, my father's completely paralyzed from the neck down, and my mom, for the past 25 years, day in and day out, has been taking care of him. But every day, despite the fact that my dad can't stand up and hug his wife of 45 years, he still says yes, yes to life. So we're here to proclaim the gospel of life, which simply says that all life is sacred, beautiful, and made in the image and likeness of God.
But he says yes to life, and she says yes to life,
Amen.
too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you know, it's so important. My father passed away a few years ago from Parkinson's and a heart condition. And I remember when my mom and I were sitting in the living room after, right before the funeral, and we were talking, and I was so worried about her health because she had put so much into taking care of him. And she looked at me and she said, "Don't you know, as a Catholic radio talk show host, this is how we get to heaven?" And I was like, she was absolutely correct.
Yes, in fact, it's amazing, Teresa, that you say that. My own father suffered Parkinson's for 15 years and died of that disease. My mother died of a massive stroke, and it was one of those moments where she was rendered incapable of eating or drinking. And so when we had to make the decision, she was perfectly capable, and she had myself, my older brother, and my dad standing at her bedside. And she looked at me and she said, "Honey, what should I do?" I said, "Why are you asking me?" I said, "You have your husband and your older son." She said, "Well, you are the priest." But by God's grace, she said, "I don't want them to starve me to death. So please put in the feeding tube." And so that commitment to life was extraordinary.
And I think, although obviously a lot of the emphasis today is on abortion, which is hugely important, but as you said, Peter, we are pro-life from womb to tomb, and especially with these life issues that are coming up in terms of not even technically end-of-life issues, because you see a case like Brittany Maynard, and who knows what God could have done, when we always give God that opportunity to make a difference. And the church has so many positive things to offer people about care, even if they're terminally ill, palliative care, good care, hospice, pain management. Well, we don't hear enough about that.
Right, and I think we have to recognize that we can't be responding to the negative, we have to proclaim the positive. And the positive is obviously that Jesus Christ came to give us life. That life is precious and sacred, and that's why we are who we are, and that's why we're here today.
Amen. Well, it's good to see you. Thanks so much for all that you do in the Diocese of Toledo. Peter, keep up the great work.
Thank
New
you,
Bishop
Teresa.
of the Diocese of Toledo, Ohio, Doug, back to you.
And I love that hat. You know, of course, I'm sitting here going, Holy Diocese of Toledo. And of course, thinking that's an interesting way of putting it, until my confrere here quickly added in,
Holy Toledo.
Holy Toledo. There you go. I mean, that's why you're the spiritual leader here.
I can always focus on what's holy, right?
You have those insights that pass me by, which is not unusual. And speaking of insights, we're going to go to Michelle Johnson over our social media site to see what's up. Michelle.
We have so many great stories here, it's hard to know where to begin. I'm going to read you two. One is from Stephanie Oxspring. She says her grandmother was diagnosed with, and I hope I say this right, cortical basal ganglionic degeneration. Doctors among you will know what that was. She could only barely walk if she was helped. She lost her sense of the ability to speak and to sing. She could no longer feed herself, but she laughed every day. And every day that she suffered was another day she showed us how to be truly Catholic. She may have been afraid of her disease, but she never showed fear. She never complained, she never cried. Her illness brought our close family even closer. All of them took turns taking care of the grandmother 24 hours a day. It was hard work, but there was so much love in these works. It was awe-inspiring. Nana taught us how to live with love even through fear and illness. Her life was a blessing and still continues to bless us even though she is no longer here on earth. Taking care of her was hard on my family, but the stress was worth it. Nana was worth it. We are all worth it. And then there's a story from a Kimberly Wick. This is really something, God's grace. While I was pregnant with my son, a friend asked me for money to help her pay for an abortion. I begged her to keep the baby or give the baby to me if she couldn't handle it. And I convinced her to talk to her mom, and she did. Her mom, being a devout Catholic, was very understanding, and she kept her daughter. We moved away and lost touch. But my son, after moving back to Maine, met a girl and became fast friends. She was that baby girl, now in high school. Isn't that a nice story?
That is.
And now we have a treat for you. We are going to go to a trailer for a fantastic film called Dropbox.
And then I was weeping. I always cry when I'm angry. And she said, "Why are you crying? It's only orphan."
The baby box is South Korea's first and only box to collect abandoned infants.
Hundreds of unwanted babies are abandoned on the streets of Seoul, South Korea every year.
Tragic loss of life moved the pastor said to set up a way for saving unwanted babies.
위험함 속에서 버려진 아이들이 있고 또 길거리에서 그래서 이제 베이비 박스라는 것을 만들게 됐고
그리고 정말 안 들을 줄 알았어요. 어떤 아이들은 목사님 이 아이하고 죽으려고 약타났습니다. 네, 그러지 마라. 그러면 너도 오고 애기도 와라.
길이 엄마의 거리입니다. 제 아들을 부탁드립니다. 찾지 말아 주십시오. 죄송합니다. 정말로 죄송합니다.
이길이 영어 이름은 빅토리.
빅토리.
그래서 그 아이들이 이 세상에 필요 없는 존재들이 아니고 하나님이 쓰시고자 이 땅에 보내셨어요. 여기 이제 가정에 20명이라 한 그 아이들이 좁은 공간에서 많이 살고 있으니까 특별한 공동체가 다른 것은 아버지 어머니가 있기 때문이죠.
하지 않는 일 그리고 버려질 수 있고 또는 나라에서 하지 않고 있는 이런 일들을 하시는
Even if there's just one person that really cares about children, it makes such a difference.
They're just human beings, just like anyone else. They have the right to live.
이제 이 문제가 한국만의 문제가 아니고 이제 아마 세계적으로 이 아이들이 이렇게 밖에 보내서 희생당한 아이들이 많으니까.
But these children, they're helpless, they're voiceless. Who's going to speak for them?
이 아이를 보내면서 다시 한번 내가 헌신을 했어요. 하나님, 이 아이들을 위해서 죽겠습니다. 믿음, 소망, 사랑 중에 그 중에 제일은 사랑이라고 했어요.
You will definitely want to see this film. I was privileged to pre-screen it, and it's only in theaters for 3 days. So Google this, guys, and do not miss it. You have to do a little work. It's got subtitles, but it is totally worth it. Back to you, Doug.
Thank you, Michelle. Yes, very, very powerful. And it's also interesting, Father, because of the fact that it shows that not only is this an issue in the United States and Africa, it's all over the world, as he mentioned. And also that that the people standing up aren't just Catholics, though, obviously we're Catholic. In the United States, I think it's fair to say the Catholic Church took the lead in the pro-life movement. It's been one of the great unifiers with other Christian and other interreligious organizations as well to bring people together over some issue like this. But in that case there, you had somebody who wasn't a Catholic either, who was going and doing something with a Dropbox. I saw you unfurl something as soon as you saw that story. Why don't you mention that quick before we go to Teresa?
I received a letter from a woman named Rose Jones, 92 years old, and she says she's putting things in order. And she sent me this article that she had kept, you can see it's yellowed, about a woman named Martha Williams in Wheeling, West Virginia. And when the man was picking up the garbage, he found her in the garbage. That's where she had been put. But the Sisters of St. Joseph, she was brought then to the Sisters of St. Joseph, who raised her, and she's now speaking out on pro-life issues, and just so grateful for her own life, you know.
Right. Exactly, and again, the great work of the church to be able to do that, and also that somebody thought enough to take care of her, and clearly, you know, in some ways it's such a stark image. I mean, it's a great way of doing it, but you're thinking, you know, it's refuse. We're just, whether it's in the you know, it's like going to some garbage thing behind the building and throwing it in there, you know.
We have this common humanity, like you said, that other religions, other faiths can pick up on, that we have this common humanity, this dignity of being human people, and that we're made to love. The greatest, he said, quoting St. Paul, is love.
Right, exactly. And now we're going to go out to Teresa, who's out at the rally site. Teresa, what do you have?
Hi, Doug. Yes, and we are here with a wonderful group from very close to Detroit area, very close to Canada, of course, and that's where I live, and I'm right across the river from my friends here. Some are from Windsor, and this is Matt with the CLC, the Campaign Life Coalition. Tell us about your group.
So Campaign Life Coalition, we are the national pro-life organization in Canada, the political organization. So we're also the organizers of the March for Life in Ottawa, which is our version of this march on a much smaller scale. But nonetheless, it's one of those events that brings people together. It's an event that promotes life, joy, and also it's a call to action to all our politicians in Canada to do something. Because as you know, in Canada, we have no law. There is no law, no restrictions around abortion up until 9 months of birth. So it's a very sad state. But, you know, we're doing what we can to fight that.
How is the awareness level in Canada? I mean, obviously we have a lot of coverage on our network and some of the other Christian networks that cover this issue, but not out there in the secular media. Do you have pretty much the same thing that we have, where the media in Canada are ignoring this issue there and act like the women who are speaking out about their abortions silent no more, which I know they do in Canada as well, that they don't exist?
I think in Canada it's very similar to the States, but I do see a growing trend recently, because there's so many young people getting involved in the pro-life cause, and the media are catching on to that. So that is a positive sign, but at the same time, it's so small compared to all the other events that are happening.
And who do you have with you today?
Yeah, so with us today we have youth leaders from Campaign Life Coalition Youth. They're also the organizers of the youth portion of our March for Life in Ottawa. So we got our youth coordinator and all our volunteers who came here to Canada to obviously stand united with Pro-Life America, but at the same time get some tips, learn from you guys to see how we can do things better in Ottawa as well.
So in terms of the March for Life, is this your first one? This your second? Okay. Did you like the experience last year? You came back for more, huh?
Yes, it was really cold last year, but it was awesome. You guys have so many more people, and it's just inspirational to actually go ahead and try to get more of either my friends or youth to come to the one in Ottawa. So it's awesome.
Thanks for coming. Oh, Canada! There I go. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks for having us.
And again, Doug, Canada very close to the United States, obviously, but this really is an international event, as you well know. Canada is just one of the other countries represented. Over the years, of course, we've seen France and Italy and Great Britain, and we just recognized the Culture of Life Africa. So really an international presence here in this wonderful March for Life 2015. And it's so you can hear some drums in the background, the music is starting, the young college kids are getting all excited, and we're very close to starting that rally. But so many wonderful groups here from all across the world and all across, of course, the North American continent speaking up for life. Back to you.
Very good. Excellent. In fact, you know, it was exciting, Father, to see that, because we've been carrying that march that they're talking about in Ottawa for several years now. I believe it's going to be May 14th if I'm somewhere around that date, I think, and we'll be involved with that. Jim and Joy Pinto will be on the ground covering that. And again, as we've done with the Walk for Life West Coast, which is coming up on Saturday, and the March for Life, we've tried to expand it every year, so we're hoping to do more as well up in Canada, show a little more of the march. I think we're also trying to put together an event with our media missionaries in Canada, I believe, around there. I hope Chris Wagemer doesn't get too annoyed at me for mentioning it, or Jim Pinto does, but I know we're trying to put that together, because we just think that, you know, we have our own Canadian channel. People in Canada can get us. It's a Canadian channel directed towards you, and we're excited to be up there, and we're excited to have the support of the Canadians.
When people can see that March for Life that happens in Canada as well, they're drawn to be part of that. So we're seeing the numbers grow there. as we are in all of the cities, each year it just seems to grow and expand, that people want to be a part of speaking up and witnessing to life.
Right, and we get to see some shots of the crowd building out in front of the rally stage, as Teresa said, and also the idea of, by them coming here and showing that cooperation, that international flavor that Teresa mentioned also, there may be people in the northern part of the United States and even people in Canada who happen to be watching the March for Life because they know about this and it's the big one and pay attention and really weren't even aware that there was something going on in Canada, just like there probably weren't people for a long time aware that something was going out in San Francisco and realized when they watched the March for Life and we talk about the West Coast Walk for Life, whether it be on Life on the Rock or as part of our coverage, they became aware. And so that's part of the idea with this too, which is with all these groups coming together, it really gives an opportunity for people to get a sense of all the different opportunities there are to participate in the pro-life movement.
Build that mutual support, that we need each other, and when we have that support and we see the numbers that turn out for events like this, it encourages us to keep going forward, that we're not nuts, you know, we're not just some oddball that's kind of off on the side here.
Right.
But people have this common sense, the dignity of all human life.
Well, I think that's one of the great visions Mother had, really for people to realize you're not alone. To realize you're not the only person who believes or trying to live out what the truths of the Catholic Church or our Lord and live it out in your life. That you realize when you tap into this, there are other people like that. We all need a support system. We talk about it in virtually everything we try to do in life. How much the family is a support for you growing up. How much, you know, if you're struggling with going and working out and stuff like that, you say it's always better if you go with a buddy. You go with other people who you have camaraderie with. It's the same thing for this in the pro-life movement, locally or in the church, to be able to see there's other people out there who give you strength and help to pull you along, who make you feel sometimes, well, if they can do it, what am I doing?
And you think about how small EWTN was in its beginnings, but the message that Mother had of faith in the Lord, confidence in the Lord, fidelity to the Lord and His teachings resonated with people. And so they were happy to hear that message, you know, because it wasn't being told in other media outlets, that they were hearing it on EWTN, and they began to support it, and thanks be to God, it's continued to grow what it is today.
Right, and that's why I think with Brian Patrick and EWTN News Nightly, it's so important, because it's given another opportunity for people to get the news of the day from a Catholic perspective and know they're getting the straight story, so they can stay in touch without feeling like I've got to spend half my time with my radar up trying to figure out, you know, where is this coming from? How much of this is really true? How much of it is being spun to me?
And there's something always positive in the message of EWTN News Nightly, as Raymond does as well at the end of his show.
Exactly, right.
You end up with a positive message because we are a people of hope, and there always is hope, and there's always something good that we can look at as well.
Right, exactly. And one of the things I was thinking about while you were talking about that as well with News Nightly and reaching out to people is that whole idea with the young people out there seeing what's going on in the church, seeing the young people there, all the people who show up, the mass numbers. We've seen the impact, I think, over the years because we're covering this event. Not only are we seeing it more opportunities for these things to be promoted through Catholic media, through Catholic radio, and in other parts of the country actually having events, we're seeing the secular media take notice enough to realize, you know what, we have to show something. You know what I mean? Some get on board and say, hey, it's part of our constituency too. There's a big group of people out in the country, more than 50%, who are pro-life. They need to be represented also in television news and things like that. So you get some, like a Fox, who might do a lot more. C-SPAN, who is right there in Washington, feels they need to do something. And you even get the Washington Post and other papers starting to say, you know, we just can't ignore it, because to some degree they get embarrassed at some point that they try to act like it's not happening. Now before, when nobody saw it, it wasn't a problem.
Right. There's so much darkness, you know, and what's presented in the media is often something quite dark. But you see something beautiful here. There's like a divine radiance about it. The countenance of the people that are involved, those that speak hopefully, you know, about the dignity of life, that all life should be cherished. I mean, that's a positive message that people want to hear. They want to hear something good. They want to hear that their lives are meaningful, valuable, and to be treasured. Exactly, exactly. And we head back out to Brian. Brian, who do you have?
Well, we're talking about legislation on Capitol Hill today. They were considering a bill that apparently has been put on hold. Olivia Gans Turner is with the American Victims of Abortion. That's an outreach of the National Right to Life Committee. Bring us an update on what's going on Capitol Hill today.
Well, we unfortunately saw one bill taken off of the vote today, but we are still going to see a major pro-life vote take place regarding taxpayer funding of abortion. And as every American knows, we don't want to see our tax dollars used to pay for abortion. So that's a real positive. We expect to see the the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act move forward in Congress soon, but we have to step back, regroup, and begin again. That often happens with major bills like the Unborn Child Protection Act. This is a major bill.
Suzanne LaFranchi will be covering that. An update from Capitol Hill on EWTN News Nightly. Let's talk about this issue of abortion that seems to be so difficult for people to talk about with their friends and family.
Well, when we think about how abortion has affected families, you have to look at all the reality of it. Abortion has affected virtually every family in America, Brian. I myself had an abortion in 1981. I have many brothers and sisters. I have many nieces and nephews. I have in-laws. All of us, the mothers of those children, the fathers of those children, are surrounded by family and loved ones. So very often, if you find yourself talking to someone, there's a wall of resistance to the facts of life about the unborn child or the phenomenon of how many abortions are happening. If people don't seem to be able to take in those facts, it may very simply be because they themselves are from a family where abortion death has left a tragic mark.
And it may be that people just simply don't know how to respond. Your show on EWTN, when they say, you say, right?
Brand new show, hasn't begun airing yet, but thanks for the mention, Brian. EWTN has offered National Right to Life Committee the opportunity to broadcast a 5-episode show that will break down for folks who want to be better communicators on the pro-life issue the basic idea that there are only 5 arguments. Virtually every kind of challenge that anyone is ever going to get on the pro-life issue will fall under one of these 5 arguments. So it really is a question of becoming aware of what are the facts, knowing some facts about bills like the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act, or fetal facts about unborn child's life and their development, how abortion hurts women, and then just remembering to listen, remembering to smile at the people you're talking to, remembering that you're trying to save their life as much as you're trying to save the unborn child's life. So the idea of the show is to help people become comfortable with the 5 basic arguments, which when they tune in, they'll hear. Now, the show won't broadcast for a couple of months, but when it does, we hope folks will tune in and listen. National Right to Life is very proud of this project, and we're delighted EWTN is giving us a chance to put this on the air.
When they say, you say. Olivia Gans-Turner, we appreciate you being with us. We look forward to watching your show.
Look forward to being with you again sometime soon, Brian, here in Washington, D.C.
And we look forward to having you with us for EWTN News Nightly starting at 6 this evening, right here on EWTN, the Global Catholic Network. Doug?
Exactly. Thank you so much, Brian. It's great. It saved me from doing a plug there. Olivia did her own plug. Yeah, we just did a wonderful series. We only taped it within the last month or so, right before Christmas. And it's, like she said, it's a great way to give pro-life answers to pro-choice questions and concerns. And right now we bounce right back out to Brian. Maybe we're going to Teresa.
We're with Jeannie Monahan, of course, who is the head of the March for Life, and just a great day, Jeannie. And so far, I know you were on MSNBC and you've been doing some other interviews. It's good that you're out there. I mean, this is changing. We're seeing more of you out there on the secular media, which is very important.
It's exciting. Well, not more of me, but more of the march. Right. I mean, last year it was awesome. They actually had pictures of the crowds and the young people on the day of the march, so it was remarkable. MSNBC, CNN, ABC, all of those are all reporting today, so that's great.
What do you think's happening?
Well, I think part of it is social media. We've got so many people involved in social media that it kind of smokes out the mainstream media or even the left media. It's like, you know, you're telling a story, people see thousands and thousands are interacting on social media, so they like have to report on it.
Now, in terms of the conditions last year, despite the conditions, there were so many people. I know we were iffy on the numbers because we don't get an exact count, but probably between 300,000 and 400,000. Any anticipation of what it's going to be like today, given that we have so much good weather on our side?
Well, take a look back here. I mean, I don't know if you remember at this point last year, I mean, this crowd wasn't quite as big, but I think it looks enormous. I have a feeling that we'll actually hit the Washington Monument today, so I think we'll be huge. That's what I'm guessing.
And so what else do we expect today from the march and from the rally?
Well, one of the things that's really important is our theme this year, which is Every Life is a Gift. And so we're trying to educate in particular about babies who receive a poor prenatal diagnosis, Down syndrome, anencephaly, spina bifida. they're aborted at a disproportionate rate. I mean, any abortion is one too many, but like 9 out of 10 of these little babies are aborted. It's like we're basically doing away with an entire population. So we're trying very much today to educate the general public about this and the inherent dignity of every human person, the giftedness of every human person.
What's beautiful also, I just interviewed a group from Canada, and there was a group here from the Culture of Life Africa, and of course, as I was telling Doug, this has become a completely international event, not just something for the United States.
Yeah, we were at the youth rally last night. We were asking people where they were coming from, and there was someone from Ireland, there was someone from Canada as well. So they were really, it was quite an international mix.
And we're starting at a different point this year.
We are. We're going a little bit further back to 14th and Constitution. It'll be a longer march, so we're happy about that. It should be, a good pilgrimage, a march.
It is. Jeannie, good to see you again. I know you have to get some interviews, but God bless you. We'll see you at the front of the march. Amen.
EWTN.
Yeah. You're welcome. Thanks, Jeannie. Jeannie Monahan, a little bit off mic there, Doug, but she wanted to give a shout out to EWTN and to thank you and the gang and everyone who put so much work into this effort every year to cover the march from gavel to gavel. And we'll be with Jeannie at the front of the march in, I think, about an hour. What time is it? Probably about an hour and a half from now. So back to you in the studio for now.
Very good, Teresa. That's great, and we take that praise, and we'd like to thank our crew in the field there with John Kuklinski and the boys, and our Spanish and English coverage, and of course Steve Beaumont and Peter Gagnon putting everything together for us. And I just wanted also to say, Jeannie Monahan Mancini, basically, as we can see, Father has done a great job, really picking up the mantle of the immortal, really, Nellie Gray, who really carried this on her back, this event, for many years, and unfortunately we lost Nellie back in August of 2012, and the mantle though has been picked up, and I think she's doing Nellie proud.
And I love the way that she's engaging the media, and like she said, just the media attention that Christian networks, Catholic network is having is blowing smoke into the others, and so that they're interested, and she's being interviewed by MSNBC and CNN.
Yeah,
and
where you would
like
say
that.
you would tend to believe that you would have a fairly hostile audience. But again, as Mother said, when people said years ago, well, you're putting this channel on cable companies and they have these bad channels. And she said, we have to be there in the marketplace. If we're not there with our voice, how will people ever hear it?
That's where people are. They're in their media devices, they're watching television. We need to be there because light is always brighter than the darkness. St. John says at the beginning of his gospel, it dispels the darkness. The darkness cannot overcome it.
Right, and his mother always said, even if Jeannie being on MSNBC changed one person's mind, it'd be worth her effort to be there to do that, right?
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah.
And we use media here, social media, television, radio, EWTN's everywhere. That's what we try to say. Not because we're bragging, but because we want you to know we're available in any which way you can get us, whether it's using Roku devices, over-the-top devices, cable, satellite. Obviously, we have wonderful apps that you can check out, and so you can get us on your phone, your iPad, whatever. And we're going to go back to our social media people right now, Michelle and Mike Romano, for an update on social media. Michelle.
Thanks, Doug. I've got a couple things here for you. I hope all of you are out on our Facebook pages and are tweeting Congress. Here's one from Tammy Pusateri Puckrin. I have 3 miraculous children, 2 with special needs. One of them is at the march right now. Although every mom wishes her children wouldn't have difficulties, I would never change the blessings and lessons I have received through my children. What a gift they are to each life they taught. My oldest has learned compassion at such a higher level by having the brother and sister God chose for her. I love that. And then there's something, Sheila Russo. Listen to this one. I used to be pro-choice, thinking from the angle, no man was going to tell me what I can do with my body. Then I started praying the rosary, and I understood in my mind and in my heart, abortion is murder. I was shocked, stunned, and my view was forever changed. Now I am pro-life. Thank you, Mother Mary. This, I think, is a lesson, because if you know any Catholics who say that they are pro-choice, maybe instead of hitting them straight on, you can do a stealth thing and get them to pray the rosary with you and perhaps get them to become pro-life that way. What do you think, Mike?
Yes, God writes straight with crooked lines. And you were alluding to Nellie Gray, and Matt G. writes, we remember not only the millions of lives lost to abortion, but also the pro-life warriors who are no longer with us. But they did so much for the cause, like the late Nellie Gray, founder of the March for Life. Imagine her welcome at the pearly gates, being greeted by all the babies that she tried to save. Powerful. And also, this is one from on a Facebook post from Danielle Wild. She says, haven't been to the march since 2000 when my husband Keith Wild, along with 3 other men were with us, randomly asked us to help carry the large pro-life platform that Our Lady of Fatima was attached to. My husband wasn't Catholic at the time or a father. However, he felt honored to do it. It's now 2015 as he proudly returns to the march as a Catholic father of 10 children.
Yay.
A blessed mother at work here. Back to you, Doug.
I have to tell you, nothing like Our Lady of Fatima there and those children. And I was maybe think just before we go out to Brian, back at the rally site of thinking what Mike was talking about and what Michelle was really talking about, we mentioned Nellie Gray, obviously, Father Benedict Rochelle, Helen Hull Hitchcock, another member of our board who recently passed away. The great, leaders, Father Hardin before that years ago, different people who really have blazed the trails for us. And it's great to see the next generation, again, picking up that mantle and moving it forward.
Yes, the ripple effect. We've been affected, of course, by Mother's work and the meetings that we had with her, the vice president's meetings and so on. And we're hoping to carry that banner on and to expand it even more. Take the beautiful insight and charism that was given to her or Nellie Gray or whatever, and bring our own insights, our own gifts that God has given to us to help expand that work.
Right, exactly. And they give us the ability, the tools to do that more easily than it was many times for them when they got started. And we're speaking about life, and we're going out to the rally site, of course, where we have Brian Patrick with an interview. Brian.
All right, Doug, and the crowds are building here. The banners are flying. The prayers are ascending to heaven. We've got a marching band. But this didn't just happen. This is something that has grown now for 40 plus years, and it started with a familiar name. We've all heard of Nellie Gray, but how much do you know about the person who founded this March for Life? Our Jason Calvi takes a look at the life and legacy of Nellie Gray.
March for Life co-founder Nellie Gray was tough, even when faced with a burglar.
She said, "You wait right there. Don't you move. I'm calling the police." He tried to push past her, and she grabbed him and grappled with him.
Gray was born in Texas in 1924. Baptized Catholic, she grew up during the Great Depression and graduated high school at age 15. During World War II, she was a corporal in the Women's Army Corps. She then worked for the U.S. State Department in Germany, where she was moved by the witness of innocent lives killed by Nazis.
By principles of the Nuremberg trials, they teach us that the intentional killing of masses of innocent human beings is a crime against humanity.
Nellie became a lawyer and served the U.S. Department of Labor. She was engaged but never married. Then a surprise on January 22, 1973 changed her life forever. The Supreme Court legalized abortion in all 50 states.
Roe v. Wade is not the law of the land, but rather it is an evil imposed on our country.
To fight back, about 15 people met at Nellie's home in D.C. They decided to circle the Capitol on the first anniversary of the ruling. An estimated 20,000 marched that first year. Afterward, people started asking about the next march.
And Nellie said, "Next march?"
The March for Life became a nonprofit organization with the then 50-year-old Nellie as president. The group's uncompromising principles:
protection for the right to life of every innocent human being in existence at fertilization, no exceptions and no compromise.
Nellie Gray's cluttered basement was the headquarters of the march. She received no pay for her work. She lived off her government pension.
She worked through Christmas Day. She worked all the holidays. She would work until 2 or 3 in the morning.
Nellie was a woman of prayer. but she was a very private person who wasn't always easy to get along with.
She had her own ideas, and they were the right ideas.
Nellie was fighting for life until the moment she died in August 2012 at the age of 88. But the movement she helped bring to life marches on.
If we do our work properly this year, we'll have a celebration next year.
Jason Calvi, EWTN News Nightly.
All right, Jason, thank you so much. And Nellie Gray's spirit is so much alive here. The theme of this year's March for Life is every life is a gift. And David DeSanctis is one of those gifts. He's an actor, a talented actor, starring in Where Hope Grows. David, tell us a little bit about how precious your life is. I know that you are very outspoken about being one of those who survived this tragedy of abortion.
Yes, I did survive the tragedy of this abortion. Then, when I was born, I had an open heart surgery, but it healed it on its own, and I was moved to the Coles Children's Hospital from the suburban hospital where my mom gave birth to me.
90% of those who are identified with Down syndrome are aborted. It's a shocking statistic. Here's one of the 10% making some beautiful things of his life. Tell us a little bit about the movie Where Hope Grows.
About the movie of Where Hope Grows, how I got the part is my transition advisor from Down syndrome of Louisville set up a lunch meeting with the producer, Belon Chakraborty, and he suggested for me to audition to get the part in the movie, and I was in probably the top 15, and then somehow it got narrowed down to top 3, and then my parents was in a jaw-breaking moment, like, and I just did this of when I heard that I got the part in the movie.
So just very briefly, tell me about the character you play.
The character that I play is named Produce, and he works in the produce section of the grocery store.
Wonderful. That is called Where Hope Grows. It's coming out soon, starring David DeSanctis. Thanks for being with us, David, and for your powerful message.
You're welcome. It's coming out on May 15th, 2015.
We'll be looking for it. Back to you in Birmingham, Doug and Father.
Well done, Brian. Thank you so much for that. I've got to get him to do plugs for us. He does a good job plugging there. That's terrific. We got to see that. That's powerful. I mean, maybe it's a generalization, but I have to say, I don't think you meet happier children or people than people who suffer from Down syndrome. As far as, I mean, they're just angelic-like when you meet them.
Yes. You know, I'd read an article about genius and IQ tests, but each of us has a particular genius in us, a particular gift God has given us. And I think the Downs people, especially, it's a genius of the heart.
Right.
You know, they have that ability to kind of cross barriers that people put between each other.
Right.
They have a way to reach out to others in love.
Right, because there's no guile. There's not that guile there of, you know, a feeling where one has to hold back because one's not sure, one's reading the tea leaves, trying to, the social norms. It's just.
They are who they are, right?
Exactly. The other thing I wanted to mention, because we saw that great clip with Nellie Gray, the little backstory, and also with Mother way back when. And Mother was first had Nellie on the show back in 1994. I'm not sure if that's when that clip was for. She was on 4 times with Mother and 4 other times. So just so people know, for like 8 different times we had Nellie Gray on EWTN Live in one fashion or form, because Mother was such a big supporter and continues to this very day to be the most pro-life person you'd want to meet.
And I think her own life and the care that she's now receiving is a testimony to that she loved life, she loved people that came to her, she'd give them her own time generously and sacrificially, and now the sisters are returning that to her in their quiet care of her, as she's been bedridden for many years, but she continues to pray, to intercede for our work.
Right, and again, that's where the structure of society is getting out of balance, because with the larger families, the idea in a sense is the parent takes care of the children when they're younger, and the children take care of the parents on the back end. But if you don't have that many kids or you're not in that situation, you know what I mean, and then the families get spread apart because they don't live in the same locales, you don't have that same support system. And that's where people turn many times to the government, where out of necessity it can be helpful, but many times it has the counter effect of actually hurting the family structure.
Yes, you get institutionalized. There was just a couple of days ago, I blessed a new used van of a family of 14, and several of them were going to drive to the march. But they're a beautiful witness to the dignity of life, and that the mother of Monica, who's the parent of these 14 children, they brought her into the home. They're taking care of her. And she requires a lot of care, but just that is that's a beautiful lesson for their own children. To love one another.
Right, exactly. Yeah. To return the gift, really.
That's right.
That one was given. And again, gifts and sacrifice, and you know that whole idea, which has become very downplayed in our society. The idea that you can love someone. It doesn't mean that everything feels good all the time. And if you think that's the case, you're not going to be married or in relationships very long. You have to realize there's a sacrificial nature to everything in life, whether it means at that point in time when mom isn't doing so well and mom's crankier than she used to be because of her age or in infirmities, that you can be annoyed, but you have to step through that. You have to push through that.
There's no genuine love without an element of sacrifice in there, because there has to be a gift of ourselves. It's not just I need to receive everything that's going to benefit me. There's got to be some gift of ourselves for there to be genuine love.
Well, if there's no cost involved with doing something, unfortunately, it usually doesn't carry much meaning. There's got to be a cost. And going back out to Teresa at the rally site. Teresa, who's up?
Okay, good.
I think we're on the air right now with Cardinal Wuerl, of course, from the Archdiocese of Washington. And what a day, what a mass last night. It's so much to talk about right now.
Well, there's so much joy, but I think the reason we need to be particularly joyful is the fact that there are so many young people. That basilica was overflowing with young people. This morning, the Mass, overflowing with young people. Here, thousands and thousands. It's the next generation, and it's the generation that's saying, we're for life. And it's the result of all the hard work, all of these past years, simply proclaiming life is wonderful, it's beautiful, it's God's gift. And EWTN has been a proud voice in this struggle all these decades. But isn't it great to be here today and see the fruit of it? Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, thousands of young people, the next generation, saying, we're for life.
And isn't it interesting how I love the way God works, and we could see truth everywhere. For example, some of these stories that have been popping up in the media, the Holy Father's messages on the way back to Manila on the press plane, some of the things that he was saying caught the media's attention, and I thought, well, not only are they talking about it, but they're talking about it this week during Respect Life Week.
During Respect Life Week.
Yeah.
And the Pope tweeted us this morning, reminding everybody, life is sacred, life is God's gift. And I just said to all those young people, retweet it. That's a great message to get out there. He is traveling all over the world now, saying, be mindful, folks, to thank God for life and then stand up for it.
One quick question, I know you have to go, but you must be very excited for the events coming up later this year with the Holy Father.
We're very excited here. All we're doing is waiting for the official word, but he already said he's coming. He said that in the plane interview. We're just waiting for some official word. I'd like to have that letter in my hand, but we're very excited. What a blessing for our country. Here, Philadelphia, New York, it's going to be a tremendous blessing.
Cardinal, thanks for stopping by. God bless you. Thanks for all you do.
You're welcome. Bye.
And we'll see you out there at the march.
Okay.
Let's go right now, if we could, to the Catholic Medical Association. These wonderful doctors have been standing by patiently in their white lab coats. We have Dr. Peter Morrow and we have Dr. Les Ruppersberger. And I just want to give you a lot of credit because you are in a field. Well, you're a small minority in your field, but you are growing, right, Doctor?
Oh, absolutely. The Catholic Medical Association is growing incredibly, and especially the medical student section, the young students and the residents. They keep expanding our group, and we keep growing very rapidly in that area.
Now, you are an OBGYN, but you stopped prescribing birth control how many years ago, Doctor?
15 years ago, I gave up contraception in my practice, and I'm a natural family planning instructor, certified for the Archdiocese of Philadelphia, and our conference next year will be in Philadelphia the week after the World Meeting of the Families. So we'd like to invite anybody that's watching that are physicians to come to Philadelphia and join us. But we're fighting the fight against contraception and abortion, and we're glad to be here to represent our organization and march with everyone for life.
What do you think happened in your medical profession in terms of when you first started in medical school? How did the pro-aborts and the pro-birth control mentality get so deep within, not just obviously it's in other fields as well, but it's so accepted that's something that women should have, both birth control and access to abortion? What do you think?
It was very insidious in that it was started to be put into the curriculum back after the pill came on the market in 1960. And so in the 1970s, when I was in medical school, all of the classes in OBGYN taught that contraception was just standard of care, and it just progressed from there to where the colleges of OBGYN have accepted it and promoted it and redefined life and redefined the beginning of life and redefined the definition of pregnancy. And now we have an entire culture and a generation that have grown up with that as being standard medical care for women, and it's not.
I have to ask real quickly before we go, what started your turnaround on the issue?
I was actually confronted by a Catholic priest wondering how I could reconcile giving out contraception in my office and receiving the sacraments in our parish on Sunday. And it disturbed me greatly after that Bible study meeting where I was confronted, and it took me 6 months to turn it around and change it. But I did, and I'll never look back, and I'm glad that I did.
We're glad you did too. And how many do you have with you today?
We have several dozen from our guilds here in the local area marching with us all together.
Are you warm enough in these lab coats?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just checking. You have sweaters on, you're good. Because it's beautiful, but it's still chilly.
So much starch that it blocks the wind.
Thank you both. God bless you for your work. And thanks also for standing up for women. We need that information, and we don't often get it from the medical community. So God bless you both. We'll see you out there on the march.
All right, take care. Thanks.
Doug, back to you. Catholic Medical Association. It was great. We were able to grab Cardinal Wuerl. I saw him walking by, and of course, the pushy reporter that I am, I pulled him over and did an interview. You can see behind me, a lot of them are starting to gather behind the stage. A number of clergy are there as well. And as Jeannie Monahan said, if you could take a look at this crowd, it is much larger. This particular area filled in. It's been filled in for about an hour now, and so I really do believe it's going to be an even bigger crowd than last year. But just fantastic to be here today, and just some great interviews and some people making a huge difference. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Teresa. And of course, you know, I think if we gave Teresa 2 microphones, she could actually alternate and go back and forth and do 2 interviews simultaneously at the same time. And of course, last year we were astounded, Father, before we got to Brian, how many people were there, considering how bad the weather was. It was so cold, and there was a lot of bad weather that blocked people from even getting there.
And Teresa was pretty much covered up. We could just barely make out her face, you know, because
exactly.
it was so cold out there. So, but people want to be there. They want to witness to life, and cold, wind, rain, or whatever's there.
Now, part of the pro-life is not just the culture we live in, but it's also, unfortunately, the political culture we find ourselves in as well. So we go to Brian, who's out there with something interesting for us to take a look at. Brian.
Well, just up the road here at Capitol Hill, there's legislation that's being considered this week that ties into what's going on here in the March for Life. And the pro-life forces now have a new proponent in the Senate. Our Suzanne LaFranchi takes a look at South Carolina Senator, Mr. Scott.
How do we save the most children in the quickest amount of time?
That mission has driven Marjorie Dannenfelser to fight abortion for 22 years. It's a battle thousands of pro-lifers are taking up at the 41st Annual March for Life here in Washington. As they rally, the House will ceremoniously be voting on legislation barring taxpayer funding of abortions, a prohibition already largely in place. The House was supposed to vote on a bill prohibiting abortion after 20 weeks of pregnancy. It included exemptions for rape, incest, and to protect the life of the mother. But late last night, several GOP female lawmakers, unhappy with the rape reporting requirement, bailed on the bill.
There is no federal limit on abortion at all in this country. Up until birth, it is allowed. 2/3 of states have no limit after 20 weeks.
A co-sponsor of the 20-week abortion bill says the facts are clear.
At 20 weeks, we know the child can feel pain. Conclusion, final, period.
Tim Scott is the first African-American pro-life senator. He admits passage in the Senate will be even tougher. The president has already vowed to veto the bill and brought up abortion at his State of the Union address.
We still may not agree on a woman's right to choose, but surely we can agree it's a good thing that teen pregnancies and abortions are nearing all-time lows.
Despite the roadblocks, Senator Scott remains committed to the cause.
If you're patient and you're persistent and you're passionate, you become powerful. And not the individual, but the topic. And so the evolution for the 20-week pain-capable legislation is sooner or later, I think it will be the law of the land.
Suzanne LaFranchi, and she'll have an update from Capitol Hill on EWTN News Nightly. Very briefly, we have Lizzie Gamble with us. She's a high school student from the Kansas City area, and you have a dream for your future.
I sure do. I want to work at a pregnancy resource center doing ultrasounds. It's something that I feel like I can really do to help this movement. Being a youth, some people frown upon anybody in the medical field wanting to do this, but it's something that I've always been passionate about, and I feel like I can really make a change by doing this.
Why is it so important that women and men can see that child with an ultrasound before a terrible decision is made?
The child in the womb is a beautiful thing. Just seeing it get to move around, it's life-changing. Once you see your son or daughter, it's beautiful. And once it's born, you can't change anything about that feeling that you have. And I want to help somebody. If I can have one save from a mother that is deciding to have an abortion, that would make my life perfect. It would make me happy. Well, our prayers are with you as you pursue that wonderful goal, and we thank you for being with us today. Thank you, Brian. Well, they're singing the Star-Spangled Banner, our national anthem, at the rally stage, Doug, so it's really getting underway here now as the sun shines on the mall here in Washington, D.C.
Very good. Thank you so much, Brian, for that News Nightly piece with Suzanne LaFranchi, who is our White House correspondent, Father, and of course the follow-up interview there as well. I'm sure you'll be able to see more highlights like that on tonight's edition of EWTN News Nightly, and then also Raymond Arroyo's special edition, a pro-life one on the World Over Live tonight. So look for both of those in addition to the rally, which is just about to start, and our live coverage. And I know you may want to just touch base before we head back on the abortion counter. You're getting close to the number of people graduated from my high school now.
Okay.
Just about another 10 or 15 and we'll be there.
A sad statistic. As we begin the coverage, we're up to 415 now.
Right, exactly. And it will climb throughout the day, and we will be there bringing you everything as it happens. We're waiting right now for the actual rally itself to start. I think we heard maybe that the actual national anthem is being played, so everything's just about ready to get going. And one of the things we've seen, like with the schedule, Archbishop Kurtz, Carl Anderson, but one of the things Chris Smith, Daniel Lipinski, Tim Scott, who we just saw, will speak as well, that I think there's been an attempt to try to consolidate the rally platform to be something where they could start it on time and they finish on time, because at different times, as much as it's great to hear all these voices, at some point sometimes it got a little lost, and there was just so many people coming and going. At some point people start to lose the message. So I think it's a really smart thing in the world we live in today, like we said, with
That's right,
limited
soundbites.
attention spans and things like that. I think Jeannie's got the right idea to keep things moving and get into the march, because at the end of the day, the rally's great, but really what the people are there for is that ability to march, to really become part of that throng, right?
It's a great thing to hear these voices, to see some of these people on the Hill, to talk about what they're doing and the efforts that they are making. But that's the key, right? That's what we're headed toward, is this march, this witness in defense of life.
And also, we remind our EWTN family that you are our family, and you can go to our website, EWTN.com, and get all the information. There's our pro-life website as well. Go to Facebook and see what's going on. Participate as part of our social media, Twitter, etc., Pinterest. We're in every place we should be, and hopefully more places in the future, because we've got to reach all elements of society with the message. And then, Father, there's a couple of pictures, some of the ones we saw a little earlier, of some of our EWTN young children, and I could see that somebody did pretty well there. That's a real cutie. They're all cute, but one after the other here. So we better get back to the rally site, or we're not going to leave these pictures here. So let's go and show our audience the rally site. I don't know, I can't right now hear any audio from the location, but I can see they're obviously assembling the speakers on the main platform, the stage, and that's Archbishop Kurtz, I believe.
My dear friends, it's my humble privilege to open this March for Life rally in prayer with the great assistance of my Orthodox brother bishops and my Catholic brother bishops as a sign of our unity in this effort to uphold the dignity of every human life. The Orthodox and Catholic bishops take turns each year leading this joint opening prayer. And so I ask you to join me as I say, let us pray. Heavenly Father, we stand before you this day and ask your blessings on this National March for Life. We thank you for each and every pilgrim who has made the trip to our nation's capital. Help us to be joyful witnesses to the gospel of life, not just today, but at every moment of our lives. Guide us to be loving and welcoming even to those who might ardently disagree with us. In particular, Father, help us to be compassionate to anyone suffering from the loss of a child through abortion. May we be a bridge that connects them to hope and healing that can be found in you alone. Direct all of our thoughts, our words and actions this day to be effective in defending the lives of unborn children. Help us to be missionaries of peace. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord let his face shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord look upon you kindly and give you peace. Amen.